Yeah, that sounds good. We'll talk about that Mavericks rumor on our next video. Ooh, that's an interesting article about Luka Doncic. We'll be sure to cover that as well. Oh, wait, have we started here? Oh, sorry. Sorry about that, folks. Just preparing the rest of our Mavericks content for the next week, which is why you should subscribe. We're bringing you videos almost every single day here on this channel. Producer Coop just started this thing. I wasn't even ready to go. Hit that big red button and subscribe. Hey, we're preparing for future content. That means that's coming your way very, very soon. On today's show, we're breaking down your trade ideas. You're watching Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I am Harrison Graham. Appreciate you guys for submitting some trade ideas. So we're going to break those down on today's Trade Rumors Mailbag. I liked some of the trades y'all brought to the table. You guys have a good pulse for what the Mavericks need right now. I think that's pretty darn clear. Let's go to John Dexter Yabia's idea to start. A couple of Jonathan Isaac trade ideas. I thought this one was the most interesting. Jonathan Isaac for Josh Green and Davis Bertans. 2 years ago, or even a year ago, he'd be like, duh, for sure doing this. However, Isaac has missed the past 2 years. I'll be honest, I forgot he's missed 2 years in a row. I knew he missed last year. I didn't realize it had been 2 full years since he's actually played. Now, the last time he did play, he was emerging as kind of like maybe the best defender in the NBA, for sure, like an all-NBA defensive type of guy, can guard forwards and guards, over 2 blocks per game, over a steal and a half per game, and his offensive game had started to come around, 12 points and just under 7 rebounds as well. This is one of the best defenders in the NBA when healthy. Now, you missed 2 years, is he still that? If he's not an elite defender, his value plummets because, sure, he was improving as an offensive player, but the defense is what got him paid. That's why he's in the NBA and making good money, whereas if that goes away, it's kind of like, what are you? You're just like an okay role player at that point. But if he's still that premier defender, get you another lengthy defensive player next to Luka Doncic in certain rotations, I like that quite a bit. And sure, you're losing Bertans, who maybe is a little bit more of a floor spacer and shooter, but not a good contract. And Josh Green, Isaac's just a better player at this point. It's just as simple as that. So would you do this trade? It's a tricky one because of the injuries. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Would you pull off this trade if you were the Dallas Mavericks? Curious to see where you guys land on this one. Dravos Drail's idea, this has been a common one around Myles Turner, but a little bit of a different one. TJ McConnell as well. Davis Bertans, Dwight Powell going the other way. I think my first takeaway on this one is I think you got to throw a first in there because Myles Turner is clearly the best player in this trade, even with his injury history. And TJ McConnell is a legitimate rotation guard, whereas Dwight Powell and Davis Bertans, you could argue, are the 2 worst players in the trade. So I think you'd have to throw a first in there, even though Turner's coming off the injury and is expiring after this deal. We've talked about him quite a bit. Excellent shot blocker, can stretch the three-point line. I think if healthy would be a tremendous fit here. He could start at the 5, JaVale's your backup 5, and then Christian Wood and Maxi Kleber play the 4 for you. I think you'd have an excellent front court if that were the case. Now, TJ McConnell is no slouch. He would be a nice backup point guard. Now, he's not a great shooter, but he can distribute. I mean, he over the last 4 years, he's kind of in that 4.5, 5 assists per game on average. 2 years ago was his best, 8.5 points, 6.5 assists. I think last year's more of what you're looking at, 8, 9 points, 5 assists, low turnover rate, good from the floor. Not going to take a lot of threes because he's not a great shooter, but he could be that backup point guard. Would I rather get someone like a Colin Sexton to be a third ball handler, a higher level player? Of course I would, but TJ McConnell's not just a throw-in. I mean, he's gotten real minutes in the NBA for several years now. He's a smart player. Coaches trust him. Rick Carlisle liked him a lot last year, which goes a long way with me because we know how he is with point guards. So, yeah, I would do this trade in a heartbeat, even if you had to throw a first-round pick in there. More trade ideas to break down, but I want to remind you guys to subscribe. Join the squad here at Mavericks Today. We're almost at 20,000 subs. Can we get there? Just over 300 away. If you want more Mavericks news and rumors throughout the offseason, we'll have you covered. And, hey, before you know it, training camp will be here and the season will be upon us. YouTube.com/MavsTV. Share that link with all your MFFL buddies, and we'll keep this channel growing here as much as we can. All right, let's go to Oakley's idea. Tobias Harris to Dallas for Reggie Bullock, Davis Bertans, and Dwight Powell. I kind of feel like it's the last trade where I'm like, If you throw a first on there, maybe it works, even though Toby's contract is tough. I don't think Philly does that trade, though. Reggie Bullock would help them tremendously, would give them more of a sniper from three and some 3-and-D ability. But I don't know if the other two players offset Tobias Harris, who is a really solid player. I mean, he's not a star or even a true Robin, I would say, but I would say he's an excellent number 3 on a contending team. I mean, he's an 18 to 20-point scorer who can score at all 3 levels. He can get to the basket, he can post up, mid-range, he can rise and shoot over the top of smaller defenders, and he can shoot from 3 as well. Look at his last 4 years. He's right around 38% on average. He's an excellent offensive player. ISO within the flow of the offense, doesn't have to run through him either. He's exactly what you want as like a number 3 type of player on a contending team. I would like him here a lot. Now, 36 million a year, whatever he's making, is a ton of money. Remember, the Mavericks actually offered him a contract, I believe, when the Sixers signed him, but it was about for 25 million a year. They gave him the max, which ended up being about 35 million per year on average. So I would do that trade. I think you'd have to throw the first to entice the Sixers. The Mavs will be the blank seed in the Western Conference this upcoming year. What was it, 4 seed last year, Coop? Yeah, 4 seed last year. I don't know. I mean, I think the ceiling with the current roster is probably like 3 or 4. The floor is, you're probably in that play-in range of 7 to 10. The West, guys, is brutal this year. I'd probably guess somewhere in the middle, maybe like 4 or 5 seed this year with the West getting better and obviously the loss of Brunson. But I do like the 2 front court additions. We just got to see how it all comes together. Still think this team's going to have to add another playmaker. Let's go to Jamie's idea. Ben Simmons, oh boy, to Dallas for Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, Davis Bertans, and a 2025 first. You know, on the surface, you're like, that's actually a really good trade value for the Mavs. Like, if you could get Simmons to just, if it's only the basketball that factors in, that's where the conflict comes into play. Like, on paper, that's a good trade for the Mavs. It really is. Ben Simmons would come in and be your second best player right away next to Luka Doncic as an all-NBA defender, as an excellent passer, both as a guard and out of the high post if you want to use him that way. The problem is a couple of things. One, as we look at his numbers here for his career, which are like 16, 8, and 8, over 56% from the field, you're like, oh my God, I mean, yes, do that trade. Problem is a couple things. One, he hasn't played in a year. The last time we saw him play, he mentally got worn down by the Sixers fans. He doesn't shoot at all, and you got to wonder, how can you trust him at this point? He can't trust him. It's a good value trade in terms of the basketball, but I don't see how any team could trade for him right now until they see him play again. Would I revisit that trade at the deadline if he proved he was playing and was healthy and was at least playing at the level he was before? Yeah, I mean, I would do that trade, but I just don't know where he's at mentally right now. I don't know how committed he is to basketball. There's all kinds of rumors saying he left the group chat in Brooklyn when they tried to get him to play in the playoffs. I mean, that's been shot down by reports, but who the hell knows what's going on? I'd believe anything with Ben Simmons at this point in time. Want to see where you guys weigh in. Would you trade for Benny Simmons? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Get your votes in, and we'll see you soon here on Mavericks Today.